Hello, once again I welcome you back to my YouTube channel. In this video we are going to be learning how to deploy front-end applications using some AWS native services. And we are going to be looking at two specific services. The first one is using the combination of S3 bucket and CloudFront distribution to deploy front-end applications. While in the second breath, we are going to be looking at how to use AWS Amplify to solve problems or the downside of the method of S3 bucket and CloudFront. So AWS Amplify is like an upgrade or a service that is designed to solve problems that are associated with the first method, which is S3 bucket and CloudFront distribution. And we are not only going to be deploying this application, we are going to be deploying them with a custom domain name and SSL certificate. And this domain name, we are going to be looking at it in two folds. The first one would be a domain name that is local to AWS. That is, in this case, you have your domain name managed by AWS register in what is called Route 53. And we're going to look at the second instance where you have your domain name registered with external registrars. Maybe you have it with GoDaddy or you have it with Hostinga, as the case may be. So before we dive into the hands-on, let us quickly look at what are the requirements. So we will need, in the first one, the first method, we say we are going to be using S3. So we're going to be using S3 and CloudFront distribution. Okay, in this method, we will need an S3 bucket. Okay, we are going to set up an S3 bucket. Then we are going to need to set up a CloudFront distribution. Okay, we are going to need a CloudFront distribution. Also, we are going to need our domain name. We need a domain name. Okay. In this case, we know we have two domain names. One will be registered in Route 53, which is AWS registry service, and we are going to have the second one, which is an external domain. We are going to have one which is an external domain name, and the external domain name in this case, I think I have it with a register called AWS register. So we have a domain name there, and so we are going to also have. We're also going to set up what we call the SSL certificate. We're also going to set it up. So we are going to need all these items for us to be able to complete this project. And of course, in the second breath, which is using the AWS Amplify. AWS Amplify is a special AWS service that is used to deploy front-end application, and it has an inbuilt CI/CD service, or let me say CI/CD capabilities. So you will not need to set up the service has been designed to work as if it has an inbuilt CI/CD. So all we just need in this to get this run is, one, we need our repo, our Git repo, either it's in your GitHub or in your GitLab, as the case may be. We need our Git repo, and we are going to need our domain name. To read our domain name. Okay, this domain name, like I said, can either be in AWS or it can be external. And we also need the what? The SSL certificate. So we are going to see how AWS Amplify is able to solve the difficulty or the disadvantage that this method of S3 plus CloudFront has. Is going to be solved by AWS Amplify, as we are going to see it. So now, what do we want to build? Now, let us go. We have a little repository here. Let's go into that repository. Okay, that contains a simple Java application. And this Java application is meant to deploy about data form, like a simple form for collecting student information. So to jump into the hands-on, we're going to clone this application and we are going to start working with it. So the first thing we're going to do now is let's clone the application. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to clone the application, and I'm going to take it to my VS Code. I'm going to be using my VS Code, and I already had my WSL terminal. So I'm going to clone this application. I'm going to clone this application. So I'm going to do git clone. Let me just increase this so that you can see it. Okay, so I'm going to do git clone, and I'm going to put the repository. I'll click enter. So we now have the repository. So let me open the repository. CD into student. So this is, so the first thing to do is to run npm. So the first thing to do is to run npm install. npm install. And what npm install will do will be to install all the dependencies. I think there's a typo here. npm. So it's going to go ahead and install all the dependency that is needed. Now let me open this so that we can appreciate what's going to happen here. So I'm going to clear this first, and I'm going to try to open this in another window. So if I open this in another window, okay, I think here is fine. Okay, now I open it in another window. Let me just make it bold. Let me zoom in for you to see it. So you should just watch on this side here. So we're going to do npm install, and this will install all the necessary dependency. So that is running now. So it's going to install all the necessary dependencies that are needed for this application to run. Yeah, don't mind all this one. It's just giving us some information. We don't really need that. So let's see what we've got here. So that is still working. Now, if you look at the left-hand side here, if you click on node modules, as you click a drop down, you can see there's a whole lot of applications, a whole lot of dependencies that this application would need to run. That is what that has been installed by our command node npm install. So If you want to check this application locally, of course, this has found about 8 vulnerabilities and all that, but we are not going to be going into all of that now. So we want to check this application locally, and I will just clear the screen, and we can just start the application. So we can just say npm start. You see npm start. So it's going to try to start the application locally, and you can see it's going to run the application locally and try to tell us what the end product of this application will look like. So let's see what we got. I'm going to still go back to my. We can always come here too. You can see either we open it in browser or we can view it through the editor. So let's view it through the editor. If we view it through the editor, so you can see this is what we are going to be seeing. If you look at it at the up here, or you can just go down. If I minimize this, you can see this is the application that we are going to be deploying using our AWS services. So this shows that this application is working. You can see it's about data that is just meant to take information of of students. So we are going to be deploying this application. Okay, now let's jump onto the project. So for us to use the first method, which is S3 bucket and CloudFront, we'll first go to our AWS service and create an S3 bucket. So I will go to my AWS service. This is S3 here. I'm going to open it in another window. This is S3, and I'm going to create an S3. I will say create bucket, and I will go with general purpose bucket, and the name will be let me just call it student bio data. Okay, let me call it student bio data, and I'm just going to leave all the configuration as it is. I will ensure that the ACL, the ACLs are disabled, and I will also ensure that the bucket is not publicly accessible, and that is where CloudFront will come in. So CloudFront will enable external access to your bucket without exposing it to the public. So I will just go ahead and create these buckets. So a bucket has been created by the name student bio data. Now we need to bring our application into this bucket. So we are going to go back to our VS Code. I'm going to stop this application. I'm going to stop it. So do Ctrl C to stop it, and then I will just close the browser here, and I will clear the screen. Now, instead of taking all these files into our S3 bucket, what we just need to do is we are going to build the application using Node.js, and the application is going to be packaged to a very tiny and lightweight file. Then we can now move that lightweight file into our S3 bucket. And so we are going to run the command. Don't forget, the other time we ran the command npm install to install all the dependencies. So this time we are going to run npm run build. So this is going to build the application into a tiny package. So if you look at it here, if you notice, just watch. Another file is going to be created on the left, and that file is going to be called the build file. That file will contain the application. So I'll just go ahead and run npm run build. I will click enter. So it's going to build the application, you can see. And if you look right up here, you can see the application has a new file has been created called build. So this build file contains all the application that has been packaged into a tiny file that is ready for what? For deployment into production. So let's just wait for this to complete, And so what we are going to be doing is we are going to be taking the content of the build file. Don't forget the build file contains the package application. You can see the build folder is ready to be deployed. Okay, so instead of copying the whole of this file, all we need to just copy is what? The build. And you can see inside the build file, it has the static front, it has the HTML file that displays it, and it has so many other things. Okay, so instead of copying all the file content, in this case, we are only going to be copying the what? The build file. So I'm going to clear the screen, and I'm going to copy the build file into the S3 bucket by using a command called AWS sync. AWS sync is an AWS command that allow you to copy from your local to S3 bucket. Now, before you can do this, that means you must have configured AWS CLI on your terminal. Let me just quickly show you that. If you want to see if you have configured it, you can quickly type AWS configure. If you click on it, it will show that I have already provided my access key and secret access key to configure, to connect my terminal to AWS. If you have not done that, then this will only show AWS key access D and will require you to provide it. But in this case, we have provided this, so we don't really need to do that again. So I'm going to go back to my command. I will clear the screen and I will type AWS S3 sync. And what do I want to sync? I want to sync the build file. I want to sync this build file, and I want to move that file into my S3 bucket. So that will be S3 colon / then I will go and copy the name of my S3 bucket. So I'll go back to my terminal. This is my S3 bucket. You can see it is empty now. So I'm just going to copy the name of the S3 bucket, and I'm going to take it back to the terminal, and I'm going to paste it. So what am I doing here? I'm copying the content of the build file into the S3 bucket using the sync capability of our AWS. So I will click enter, and you can see that all the content has been moved into the S3 bucket. So if I go back to my S3 bucket now and I refresh, you will see that there are now contents that are ready to be deployed. Now, we have copied this application that has been built into S3 bucket. But don't forget, if you go under permission, you can see that your S3 bucket is not publicly accessible. You can see block all public access. So this is now where CloudFront distribution will come in. So for us to be able to access this application, we will go and create a CloudFront distribution, which will now be connected with SACS as the entry point into our application. So I'm going to come here, I will type CloudFront. Then I'm going to open it in another terminal. So this is CloudFront here. So when we get to CloudFront, we are going to create what they call CloudFront distribution. So I'm going to click on create distribution. Okay. And it's going to, of course, it's a simple web application. So I'm going to go with simple web application. And what is the name of the origin? The origin means where is which source do you want this CloudFront to access? Okay, and that will be the S3 bucket. So if I click on origin, I'm going to look for the name of my S3 bucket, which is this S3 biodata, and I'm going to select that. And I'm going to go straight down. Now, if you look at it here, origin access, don't forget that we have block all public access. So instead of leaving it as public, we are going to be selecting origin access control. And this is recommended because bucket will only restrict access to the CloudFront. That means our bucket content can only be accessed through the CloudFront distribution. So I'm going to select this origin access control. And then if I click here, I will look at it and I can create a new one, okay? But since I have done this before, so I'll just select it, school data form, which is the what we already have there, or you can just come and create one. But if I click on create, let me just show you something. If I click on create now, it's going to show me data form. If I click on create, it's going to fail because it tells me that it already exists. Okay, it says you must update a new one. Now that we have created our S3 data, so I'm going to go ahead. Now, if you move straight down here under our cloud formation, we want to add what we call our custom name. Like I told you, you want to add what we call a custom domain name. Now, if I go back to my AWS, I'm going to go to Route 53. Okay, let me turn Route 53. I'm going to open it in another browser. So if I go to Route 53, I have a domain name that has been registered here. So if you go to registered domains, you will see there's a name here. There's a domain name here called felixcloud.click. That is the name of the domain name. So we are going to be using this domain name to connect to our CloudFront distribution. So instead of accessing the CloudFront distribution instead of accessing the app through CloudFront distribution, we are going to be accessing it through a domain name. Now, this domain name has already been registered with SSL certificate. Now, let me please show you what we call let me show you ACM. ACM is a Certificate Manager. I'm going to open it, and if you go into ACM, you will see that I already have this is list of certificate, and if you look at it, you can see that this certificate has been linked to you can see Felix Cloud here. So I've done a video on how to request for SSL certificate. You can take your time to look at it on how to request for SSL certificate. I'm going to post a video and add the link to this video. So go back to our CloudFront distribution. So I want to use an alternate name to access it. So you're going to click on add item. So what I want to call the name bow data dot. Then what is the name of my domain? My domain name is what? Register domain felixcloud.click. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to copy the name. I will go back to my distribution and I will put it here. So this is the name. This is the name I want to use to access my application. Okay, so I've added the name bowdata.felixcloud. So that means when I put this name on the browser, I must be able to accept that application. So, and it should say custom certificate because I have requested a custom certificate with this name. If I click here, it's going to display the certificate and I'm going to select it. And then I'm going to go ahead. Now, here is asking us for default root object. That is, if you hit the URL of my application, what content of the application is going to be served? If I take you back to our VS Code, let me take you back to my VS Code, or instead, let me take you back to the S3 bucket. If you go into the S3 bucket, you will see that in the content of the object, there's an HTML file. This is the landing page of your application. That is, when anybody hits the application, it is the index.html that will be served, that will be displayed. So I'll be putting this index.html, I'll put it as the entry point of my distribution. So it's asking me for the root default. So it's going to be my index.html. And I think that is fine now. So just go ahead and create the distribution. Okay. Oh, sorry. It's asking if I'm not going to be doing any security now, so I'll just disable this and I will go ahead and create the distribution. So the distribution is being created, it takes a couple of time. You can see here it says a distribution has been created. Now, if you look underneath, there's another tab. Look at this tab. It says the S3 bucket policy need to be updated. So when the distribution is created, and S3 bucket policy has been created, so we have to copy this policy. If you look at it, it says complete the distribution configuration by allowing read access to what CloudFront origin by the policy. Go to S3 bucket permission and update the policy. So the policy is already here, so we just click on the policy, and we'll go back to our S3 bucket, and you go to under permission, and you go to scroll down, and under bucket policy you click on edit, and you paste the policy. And if you look at it, what is this policy saying? This policy is just saying that we are going to allow the principal which is the CloudFront, to access the S3 bucket through this CloudFront ARN. And if you look at it, if you look at this ARN, that is the ARN of our S3 bucket. The ARN of our CloudFront distribution. If I go to my CloudFront distribution, you can see the ARN here. You can see it, G4VBQ, that is the end. And if you go to your S3 bucket, you can see it's G4VBQ. So we'll go ahead now and save these changes, and we'll wait for this distribution to be deployed. And when this distribution is deployed, now we'll now go ahead and complete our configuration. So I'm going to pause the video, and I will return when the deployment is completed. Yeah, just to show you what I was talking about, you can see, if you look at it here under, let me clear this. If you see it under last modifier, you can see it's in the deploying state. And if you click on distribution, you will see it's telling you that is what. If I scroll to the end here, you can see it's saying deploy. Let me take this off if possible. Okay, let me remove the one below. Okay, so if you look at it here, it's in the deploying state. So we are waiting for the deployment to complete, and it is then we can now go ahead and take the next action. Okay guys, welcome back. Now the deployment is completed, and if I click on distribution, you can see that it is enabled and it is deployed. You can see the last modified date. So now, this is now the distribution domain name. Okay, this is the domain name created by distribution. So if I copy this domain name, we should be able to access our application. So if I put it in the browser and I click enter, yeah, we can see we are able to access our application. But you know that you wouldn't want to display this type of, you wouldn't want to give your client or your user this type of domain name. Yeah, that is quite difficult. So that is why we configure this name. You can see it here, about data.fleetscloud.click. You can see this look better. But now let us see what happens if we click on this link. You can see that this link was unable to access the application. Why? Because even though we have created the application, we have not shown where the link between this domain name and the CloudFront distribution has to be connected. And this is going to be done on our Route 53. So we have to go to our Route 53 and create what we call a CNAME. We're going to create a record that connects our domain name to the distribution. So let me copy the distribution. We're going to need it. And I'm going to now go to our Route 53, which is over here. And I'm going to go to hosted zone. So if you go to hosted zone, that is where you're going to see the record of your domain name. So I click on the domain name, and I see there's a record here. So I now need to create a new record. So you come here, you click on click record, and what is the name of that subdomain that you want to add. Look at it here. If you look at it here, it is what? Bow data.felicloud.click. But if you look at it, the felicloud.click has already been provided for you. So all you need to add is the bow data. So I'm going to go back to my Route 53, and inside in the subdomain, I will just add what? Bow data. Sorry. I will just add what? Bow data. And you can see the completion here. Biodata.felix.cloud. And what type of record it is? It is what? A CNAME. A name is when you are mapping an IP address to a domain name. But a CNAME is when you are mapping another domain name to a separate domain name. Don't forget that your distribution, which is this, is also a domain name. So I've copied it, and I'm going to what? Inside where we have the value, I'm going to put that there. Make sure you remove the HTTPS before it, and then you can now go ahead and click create record. So you can see now a record has been created, and if I go back here and I refresh it, so after a couple of refresh, and finally if you click on this, you see we are able to access our application through the domain name. And if you look at it, it says the connection is what? Secure, because there's an SSL certificate that has been added to the domain name. So this is how you can use the combination of S3 bucket and CloudFront to deploy your front-end application. Now, but the downside of this process is that if there's any change, if there's a change that you need to make to this application, maybe you want to change the name, you want to change the title, or you want to change the format, it means that each time you have to what? You have to go into the code, you have to build again and sync. Then you have to come here and type npm build, and then use the sync command again to copy to S3 bucket before you can now what? Before you can update the application. Yeah, that is a bit handy, and then that is the downside. Now, this issue or this problem has now been solved by AWS Amplify, as we are going to see it very soon. So the next thing now is to see the alternative method of using AWS Amplify to deploy the same process. Let us see the advantage of AWS Amplify. Now, before we go there, let me quickly walk you through the explanation that I put here. Now, when we use this method, we created an S3 bucket, and we built the application, put it inside the S3 bucket, and we use CloudFront to access the application. But in the case of AWS Amplify, all we need is just our repository that contains the data, that contain the application, and we also need the domain name, okay, and we need the SSL certificate, which we all have now. So let us go to our our AWS console, and the first thing we're going to look at now is Amplify. So I'm going to type Amplify. So this AWS Amplify, I'm going to open it in another tab. So AWS Amplify is a deployment platform that can quickly help you to deploy your application very quickly. So now you can see when you get to, you can watch this video to just take you to have a quick walkthrough. So you're going to click on deploy application, and now if you deploy application, it's going to give you options where your source code can be. Your source code can be in your GitHub, Bitbucket, code commit. It can be in GitLab, and you can even deploy it without using Git. Maybe you can have your code in your S3 bucket or in your zip file, or as the case may be. But in my own case, I'm going to be using GitHub, because that is where my application is resided. Now, when you click on this GitHub, it is going to authenticate with your GitHub repository. But because I have done it before now, it is not going to ask for authentication. But I want you to see the process of authentication. So I'm going to try to connect to it in another place, then before we come back here to continue. So let me go to another browser. Here. Let me look for, let me use entirely a different repo. I think I have another repo. Okay, this is another one. Let me sign into this repository. Okay, I think I've changed it. What is the name again? I think I changed the name. Okay, so Felix. Just a moment. Let me see. Maybe it is this. Okay, this seems to be correct. So I have GitHub. Let me do my two-factor authentication. The verification code is 818341. Okay. Now this is another what is this? I don't really need this. Just a moment, please. Okay, yeah, that is the repository. So I want to use this repo to connect to authenticate to my AWS amplifier. So this is my AWS here. Let me log in here. No, this is wrong. Just a moment. I think it's this. Okay, another two-factor authenticator. Let me quickly do that. I just want to show you how to authenticate or what the authentication look like when you try to connect to your GitHub from Amplify. So this is 432 337. I think that will be correct. Okay, so this is another AWS account entirely. So I'm going to come here and type Amplify, and I'm going to click on Amplify. Okay, I'm going to click on Deploy Application, and I'm going to select GitHub. Okay, and I'll click on Next. So it's going to ask me for my GitHub authentication. So it's asking for authorization. So it's trying to connect to this GitHub, say verify GitHub, and it's going to ask for what? Authorization with AWS Amplify. So if you click authorize, it will ask for your what? For your credential or your token. Okay, so if I click on continue now, it's going to ask me for my either, let me click on it for you to see. So it's asking me for what? To install and it's asking me if it's all repository or just selected repository. If I say all repository and I click on install and authorize, okay, it's going to what? Connect directly to my GitHub. You can see now, if I click now, you're going to see this is my application. Now, this is my GitHub repository. So now I will take you back to the one that we are doing before here. But I have already done it here, so it's not going to ask me again. So if I click on GitHub and I click on Next, it's going to automatically connect to my repository, okay, because I have gone through the authentication. And if you look at it, this is the same thing that we have here, okay, you can see it. So now, what is the repository that contain my my application? And that one is the I think it's about data. Okay, that is this one, student about data. I will select it, and it will ask me on what branch is the application is. And if I go to my application, you can see it's on the main branch. This is the application, so it's on the main branch, and that is actually the only branch there. So I will come back here, and I will select main branch, and I will click next. Now you can see something here. Immediately I click next, Amplify has detected that this is a React application. that this application is in Java, it automatically detects that this is a JavaScript application. Let me zoom out so that you can see, or let me zoom in so that you can see it. Okay. So it automatically detects that this is what? A React application, and it has generated the what? The build command and the file where the build will be kept. Don't forget, when we were building on AWS, we have to do all this by ourselves. And it also what? Created a YAML file. If I click on this edit now, you will see it has created a file that will deploy the application automatically by itself. Okay, nothing is changed, and I'll just click on next. Now, if you look at it here, it's given me for review, and it's showing me what and what that will be produced, and I can just go ahead and click on what? Save and deploy. If I click on save and deploy, you can see now that what do we call it? Amplify has started deploying the application. But now, in this application, you can see the application is ongoing here, and this is the domain name. But we want to use our custom domain to connect to this application. So let me zoom out a little bit for you to see, the whole thing. So the deployment is continuing. So I want to add my domain name. So I will click on what? Add custom domain, and this is the domain name that has been created by Amplify. So, but I want to add my domain. You can see at the top here, I will click on add domain. And what is the name? What is the name of my domain that I want to add? Don't forget I want to change this. I don't want to use, so that we can differentiate it from the old one. I don't want to use bow data. In this case, let me use API dot Felix Cloud dot click. I hope this is correct. So now you select it, and you can tell us that the domain name is selected. Now, if this domain name is not present in Route 53, because this is what they want you to use, but if it's not present in Route 53, it would have told you that it's not present, and you have to take another step. I'm going to create a video on how to do that. So I'll click on what? Configure domain. So if you look at it here now, I don't really need this. You can see this is in case if you want to accept it, you want to access your application through another one, which is www.api. That is too long, so I will just remove this, okay, and I will leave only this. So this is the API, and if you look at it, I want to add custom certificate, SSL certificate, because of security. So I will select what? Custom SSL. And if I click here, I'm going to see the SSL that I've requested before, like I showed you the other time. And I'm going to click what? Add domain. So this is going to take a couple of minutes. And when this is done, I will come back and we can access the application. Okay, let me just show you how it looks like. Okay, so it's in progress now. It has confirmed the SSL configuration. So it's trying to activate the domain now. So it's on domain activation. Now you can see here where it could take up to 30 minutes. Though from my experience, it has never taken up to 30 minutes. But don't let us waste a lot of time. So I will just pause it. But this is just for you to feel the look of how it look like. So but when this is completed, this will not show again. So that's why I quickly show you. So I'm going to pause the video, and when this domain activation is completed, we'll come back and check the application. Okay, welcome back, guys. So it is completed now. You can see the custom domain is available, and if you click on about data, you will see how you can see under add a custom domain. You can see it what is been added. The domain name has been added, and the application has been deployed. You can see how easy under 5 minutes Amplify has deployed the application. So let's go ahead now and access the application. Now you can see the name from the new name that we just added. So if I click on this, you can see we can access our application from what? api.felixcloud.click. So now this is the advantage that it has over the S3 bucket and CloudFormation approach. Now, if we need to make any changes, for example, let's say I want to change something. I really want to bug us with any changes, but let me go into. I just want to show us something how Amplify works. So if you go back to Amplify now, just watch here under this main deployment. If I go into my application here, okay, if I go to my application, let me go on the terminal itself. So that means if we make any changes, let me go on the terminal here. Let me go into the README file. I don't know if README file will work. Let me use, let me go into source. Let me go into app.json and let us add something. I just wanted to add something and commit, and let us see if that will happen. Where's the index.html file? Okay, let's go into intel.html. Let's change something. What can we change? Okay, this language is French. This language is French. So if you look at it here, if you look at let me zoom out a little bit. So if you look at line 2 here, it's declaring the language of the HTML document as English. So let me change it to French. Let me see if that works. So I'm going to click on what? Edit. And I'm going to change English to French. I think French should be FR. So I'm going to commit. Now, if I commit, you're going to see that, like I told you at the beginning, that AWS Amplify has an inbuilt CI/CD pipeline. Immediately, Amplify will detect that a change has been made to this code and is going to rebuild and deploy the application immediately. So I'm going to click commit, and I'm going to commit to the main branch, and I'm going to go to Amplify, and you can see immediately deploy has taken place. So let's see what happens when this deploy take place, and we'll go ahead and refresh our application. We don't is that the application? No, that is not the one. This is for the CloudFront. So I'm going to close that. So let's wait when Amplify says deploy. It's still deploying now. At the moment, what we have is student biodata. I expect that this will change to English. Will change to French. I don't know if that's how it works. But what I just want to prove to you is that when any changes is made in the source code, Amplify will automatically detect that change, and it's going to rebuild and deploy the application immediately. Unlike when you use S3 bucket and CloudFront, where you have to copy, you have to build again using the npm run build, and you now have to sync the build file into the S3 bucket. So in this case, automatically it does build the application. So let us see what the deployment is. I'm not a software developer, so I don't really know if that change will make any difference. But I expect that that change should change the language from English to French. That's what I expect. But if it doesn't work, I'm able to show you that whenever any new changes is made, the Amplify will trigger the deployment immediately. Now, you can see that Amplify has a top-notch advantage over S3 bucket, but it might be pricey. It is cheaper with S3 bucket and CloudFront, but I think this is a bit pricey than compared to S3 bucket. So you might want to look at the cost before you decide on which of them to use for your project. So I'm going to refresh, and if it's still taking time, I will just come back when the deployment is completed. So I refresh it and it's still deploying, so I'm going to pause the video. So the deployment is completed, and I just check. I don't think the just refresh. Just click from here now. Yeah, it doesn't think anything changes. I didn't see any French from. So, but what I just intend to show you here is that automatically when there's any change, there's an inbuilt CI/CD that will trigger the application. So I hope you have learned one or two things in this video. Please make sure you clean up so as not to incur any cost. Try to delete all the resources that you have that have been created. Please, if you like this video, I implore you to please like and subscribe to this channel so that you can get notification whenever new video is uploaded. So in next video, I'm going to be creating a short video on how to request for SSL certificate on AWS, and also how to register for a domain name in AWS. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in another video. Thank you.